All right, hey guys, this is Killian with a questionable perspective. We're back today. I'm excited though because I have a lot in store here. I'm gonna try to get SoundCloud up and Spotify and just like a bunch of different platforms up. But without further ado, today we're gonna be looking at how Bernie Sanders kind of left his top surrogate Nina Turner out to dry at the debate stage, which was really infuriating to me, and has happened now multiple times when he had left his another surrogate, not as high ranking, I guess you could say, but a surrogate nonetheless. Zephyr Teachout wrote a op-ed about Joe Biden's corruption, and then Bernie comes on, asked about it on live air at a different event, and he basically dismisses Zephyr Teachout's critiques and says, "Oh, she might have went too far and all this," which is kind of like indicative of just how Bernie Sanders has been this whole campaign. And what I mean by that is his only weakness really has been his weakness, although it's also been his strength in some instances. A lot of that could be attributed to political instinct or could be contributed to luck of the draw when I speak in the case of Elizabeth Warren. But I'd like to now look at an op-ed, but I want to look at the op-ed that I want to look at the video and the op-ed. So I'm gonna read the op-ed. Then we're gonna watch the video of Bernie responding to this op-ed. So one second. I highlighted a few parts. I don't have everything highlighted, but one second here. My computer is wonderful. Um Maybe we might be able to read the op-ed if it ever wants to cooperate. I don't know. I need new internet or a new processor or something. But okay, so I believe my screen is up. Okay, yep. Okay, so the op-ed is entitled "Why." Well, Bernie Sanders has always stood up for African Americans. Joe Biden has repeatedly let us down. So let me read this really quick, and then we'll discuss. And then we're gonna watch the video, and then we'll discuss. So some things I highlighted. So will our community side with former Vice President Joe Biden, who has repeatedly betrayed black voters, to side with Republican lawmakers and undermine our progress? And so she starts to point out some things. So not only did uh, Biden vote for bills designed to prevent black students from accessing white schools, in a series of personal letters, he actively courted pro-segregation senators to support the legislation, while Sanders, by contrast, began his work in politics by organizing civil rights protests. As a local elected official, Sanders also defied the political establishment by proudly endorsing Jesse Jackson 1988 presidential campaign. Sanders said that Jackson was a candidate who has done more than any other candidate in living memory to bring together the disenfranchised. However, Biden, in contrast, facilitated the public degradation of Anita Hill, an esteemed professor already victimized by a powerful man. Biden also fought alongside right wing Republicans to pass so called welfare reform that reduced financial support for low income families. Biden echoed former President Ronald Reagan's dishonest welfare queen language and wrote a column conjuring an ugly stereotype of welfare mothers driving luxury cars and leading lifestyles that mirror the rich and famous. In contrast, Sanders vigorously opposed these punitive cuts and called and said, "What welfare reform did, in my view," Sanders said, "was to guard some of the weakest and most vulnerable people in this country." Similarly, Biden worked with segregationist Republican Strom Thurmond to pass tough on crime legislation. At one point, Biden declared that every major crime bill since 1976 that's come out of Congress, every minor crime bill has had the name of Democratic senator from the state of Delaware, Joe Biden. Biden has repeatedly worked with Republicans to try to slash Social Security, even though almost three-fourths of African American beneficiaries rely on Social Security. Um, at one point, Biden split with then Senator Barack Obama and almost every other Senate Democrat to help Republicans kill an amendment to protect medical debtors from predatory lenders. Biden's bankruptcy legislation passed in 2005 over the objection of Sanders. 12 years later, ProPublica reported that black people struggling with debts are far less likely than their white peers to gain lasting relief from bankruptcy. Biden opposes Democratic efforts to legalize marijuana. Sanders, on the other hand, is campaigning not only to legalize marijuana, but also to root out institutional racism in our criminal justice system, outlaw private prisons, slash the prison population in half, and end cash bail and hold police departments accountable. Biden is opposing Medicare for all, and Biden has refused to support Sanders' bill to make public colleges and universities tuition free and cancel all student debt, which would reduce the wealth gap from 12 to 1 to 5 to 1 just by doing that. So Okay, so let's watch the video of the Democratic debate here. I'm gonna leave it on just regular screen here because once again I'm not sure if my connection can handle the full screen, but here we go.
Senator Sanders, several weeks ago, Nina Turner, one of your national co-chairs, published an op-ed piece that said Vice President Biden has, quote, repeatedly betrayed black voters to side with Republican lawmakers and undermine our progress. Senator Sanders, do you agree with her, one of your most visible surrogates, that Vice President Biden has repeatedly betrayed black voters?
Well, I think what Senator Turner was talking about are some of the early actions of Vice President Biden. But no, Joe Biden is a friend of mine, and I'm not here to attack him. But what I would say is that what we need in terms of the African American community is to understand that we have got to start investing big time in education, in healthcare. There is no...
Okay, so let's come back and let's discuss that for a second. So everything that Nina said in that op-ed is true, and everything in that op-ed could be considered a betrayal. Now, I don't know about you, but looking at history, in the 70s is kind of when white America, or the Republican Party, kind of started spiking fears about crime, and the whole tough on crime movement came, and then eventually led to the crime bill in 94 that Joe Biden signed. But right there was a whole thing that was set up on a racist ideology that blacks were nefarious criminals. And now we have Joe Biden here telling us that he was proud to support every crime bill coming up until 94. This isn't a one-off mistake. He led the effort in the House for the 94 crime bill. So, and on top of that, you look at the stuff like the bankruptcy bill to get rid of medical debt. Number one, that's sleazy no matter what person you are. And it's especially sleazy for the black community who, as stated in that article, have bigger wealth disparities, and as well, it's harder for them to get rid of the debt. So, I mean, and you're looking at, and then he points out other things. He looks at how much police accountability that Senator Sanders is trying to bring forth, and then it looks at legalizing marijuana, which would definitely help black and brown communities that are being overly targeted for those offenses. And the only thing that Joe Biden has is that he panders to black people by being the former vice president of Obama. And the only reason that he was picked to be vice president was so that white people would not be scared of the black dude with the Muslim name. So, I mean, let's remember that for a second. So looking at this, there's no lies detected within this document. So Sanders comes out at the debate. They ask him because, they've been asking him, just like the Zephyr Teachout thing, he comes out the same way and says, well, no, I think she was talking about his past actions, but no, I'm not here to attack him. So, well, not an outright denial. At the same time, you still are leaving your top surrogate out to dry. And let's be honest about this. I understand why he did this. It's because right now we're going to New Hampshire, and everybody's basically attacking Pete Buttigieg, and he doesn't really want to take too much flack. He doesn't want to get in the mud. And by all accounts, he had a very good debate besides that moment. But that moment really hurt me as like a Bernie supporter, but I'm sure that really hurt Nina Turner because of just like the flagrant dismissal of a top surrogate like that. But what I'm trying to get at is he did it, I would assume, politically. He didn't want to get into the weeds with that type of action and didn't want to get in that big discussion, and he did flip the conversation around. But when it comes down to it, you can still flip the conversation around, but you can say you could have given a more modest approach to that. You could have said, well, betrayed might have been a strong word, but I do believe that Joe Biden's actions throughout his career have let black people down. And you also could say that, well, we could say, well, that is Nina Turner's view, and that view might be based on the fact that I have this policy, X, Y, and Z, or I had this policy in the past, X, Y, and Z. My track record is on another level than this man's. And you do it like that. You don't just outright, I mean, he didn't outright dismiss her, but it was like a 90% dismissal. And you could tell because as soon as that happened, I was keeping very close tabs. Nina Turner retweets her article probably 5 minutes after that happens, after that clip airs, like when it's live. And so you know that Nina Turner stands by everything she says. And that's kind of the thing too, is you and your surrogates need to be on the same page. Are we doing this or are we not? If you don't want your surrogates to be writing aggressive articles, then tell them that. But do not let them write an aggressive article and then after the fact, in hindsight, then dismiss this article. This is a problem that seems to be reoccurring in the Bernie Sanders campaign. Another instance of this, not Bernie Sanders directly, but Rashida Tlaib boos Hillary Clinton after the crowd started the boo. She follows the boo, and they all attack her, and then she doesn't issue a full apology, but it's this half-hearted thing. No, we are not apologizing for facts. We're not apologizing for reality. So I think that's one thing that really needs to be addressed. And why is this Bernie Sanders weakness? Was it really comes down to it? Well, number one, hanging your friends out to dry at any time is a lack of loyalty, and that is one of the biggest traits that I would see in a leader. But once again, I understand the political angle that he was taking, but when you look at this, let's talk about when Warren was rising in the polls all summer and Bernie does not attack her once because they had that non-aggression pact, is basically what everybody is assuming. And after that meeting that was talked about, and so Warren comes up and she's almost vying for first place with Joe Biden and is overtaking him in certain polls. Bernie's dropped to a distant third, and he will not bring up the fact that Warren brought in $10 million of high donor money into her campaign that was not funded grassroots completely. She is backtracking on Medicare for all, that she didn't run in 2016 when he asked her, and that he is the progressive champion. The fact that her bills are more watered down than his, and the list goes on and on. And he never really attacks her. Now, here's the thing is this worked. This worked because so it's hard to criticize him, but at the same time, it's like eventually it's gonna not work out in your favor like that. Although at the same time, can I criticize him? So that's kind of where I'm at, this like double-edged sword with the way he's politicking. I mean, the lack of loyalty once again is abhorrent. But so we come back, and so Warren basically killed her own campaign. Warren backtracks on Medicare for all, backtracks on this policy, backtracks on that, and people start to see, I mean, her foreign policy is atrocious. I mean, it's basically standard establishment Democrat stuff. So once all this stuff starts rolling out, mainly the Medicare for all thing, Warren starts to die in the polls, and Bernie starts to rise. Now, was it political strategy on the part of the Sanders camp to say, and at the time, Bernie was releasing a bunch of plans that were really progressive and kind of, I think, maybe in a sense trying to drag Elizabeth Warren out to the weeds, and then this would force her to keep going more progressive to something that she could not reasonably stay consistent with, something that she reasonably could not actually do, and that this whole facade of being the Bernie Sanders that's a little bit younger and is a woman bullshit, so why don't you vote for me, that shit isn't going to work once your policies do not reach mine. So that may have been a strategy to an extent, but it's like you never... So imagine that imagine Elizabeth Warren's political instincts weren't just so bad. Can we all just take a break and just thank the world for how bad Elizabeth Warren's political instincts are? Because that might have saved the Sanders campaign. Because I don't know if Bernie ever attacks Warren. I don't know if he does it. So he doesn't attack her. Luckily, she falls because Bernie's so consistent. He takes his rise, and then she starts flailing, and she's grasping for straws, and then she does this sexist attack against him. And luckily, he is moral enough where he doesn't attack her when they get in that little scuffle after the debate, and she starts coming at him, calling him a liar, and he calls her a liar, but he walks away from it, disengages. So that's kind of one of the positives, and it is because all these pundits have been attacking Bernie Sanders, and everything doesn't land. Number one, because his resume is so consistent, and number two, because I don't know, the man is Teflon. I mean, call him Teflon Don. I mean, let's be honest, like him and Trump, I mean, you can't do it because the people are seeing this media machine. But that is so corrupt, and nobody believes that anymore. But coming back to topic, so that was an instance where Bernie's lack of aggression worked out in his favor. But if you keep running away from these attacks, if you run, they're gonna chase you. They will chase you for the rest of your life if you run. Okay, That's why you don't skip out on bail. Go to your damn trial, man. You gotta come here. Come and lay the thunder sometimes. You gotta go for the. I mean, honestly, as well, Biden isn't as much of a threat as Pete Buttigieg was, so he didn't need to attack him. Bernie probably doesn't even see him as a threat. So I mean, Biden should almost be insulted that he passed it on that attack. But let's really focus in though. If Bernie surrogates keep laying out factual arguments, facts are not attacks. Like let's keep that straight here for a second. Facts are not attacks. So if Bernie Sanders is not even willing to at least back his surrogate up on some facts, then what can we expect from him? What happens? Because it seems to be that Bernie Sanders is under this delusion. He really believes that. Okay, so it's hard with Bernie Sanders, and I'm really confused because he knows the Democratic establishment is dirty. He knows they are just dirtier than anything imaginable. Yet at the same time, he thinks Donald Trump is even more dirty, which he is dirtier. But at the same time, Sanders is all about this unifying effort, and which he did say that, which was really good to pander to the fucking white liberal Karen moms that need this unity and their husbands. But let's look at it for a second. He needs this unity thing. I understand he's got to say it. But come on. Come on, you can attack somebody. Why is it that unity is a one-sided thing? Why is it that progressives cannot be attackers, but that but that the establishment is allowed to throw relentless attacks? So we need to look at, Bernie Sanders has almost seemed impervious from all of these attacks that have been levied at him. This could be his Achilles heel. I mean, honestly, one day an arrow might just fall on this ankle and end his ass, because, I mean, he seems to be invincible otherwise. I mean, they can't take him down to the polls, but at the same time, why are you not going to attack people that deserve to be attacked? It seems to be that Sanders is worried about kneecapping these other candidates if he were to lose the election. So this is what we need This is what we need Bernie to do. Bernie, act like you're the front runner. Act like you're the person. Act like you're the person that's gonna win this. Act like you're the only one that's gonna fucking materially impact anybody's lives, and you know that's true because I know that we're running the Democratic primary, but you know it's true. You dog whistle for it that the Democratic establishment is just as bad, but at the end of the day, you're not willing to go full throated on them. And I understand you're not trying to kneecap them before they go against Donald Trump. But let's be honest, Donald Trump is going to fucking throw everything at the wall at these people. So Donald Trump's not going to hold anything back. This is what a primary is for. Primary is vetting season. It's vetting season. They tried vetting you. They cannot vet you. And you should not allow them to skate by and play by different rules in this. And so it comes down to this again. So what happens, Bernie? What happens, Bernie, if we're down, we start losing in the polls in Nevada, or we're going to Super Tuesday and we need to attack, Bernie? Are we going to be willing to levy attacks? I mean, he attacked Pete Buttigieg for the billionaire thing, but I mean, honestly, he could have went on him for the black fire chief thing, which then Biden ended up doing. So fuck it. I mean, I guess I don't know what to say about Bernie Sanders' political instinct. That's like the double-edged sword. It's like Biden ended up going and attacked Buttigieg for the fire chief thing in a hilarious ad. Y'all got to check that ad out. That ad is a troll and a half. I might link it underneath the video just because it needs to be promoted, because, well, Biden's team is trash. That ad was marvelous. But the point being is Bernie needs to go on the offense, and if he doesn't go on the offense, he risks losing once he starts to go down. Because like I said, the Elizabeth Warren situation, was it knowing that her political instincts were so bad and that you were just going to wait it out? Was Bernie Sanders running with the strategy of that works when you're playing free-for-all dodgeball? There's always like two kids or a kid that's out there just kind of like running around, kind of like ducking and weaving, kind of hiding. He's not really throwing anything. He's just kind of out here letting everybody else fucking get hit by the balls and everything. Then eventually he's the last man standing. Will that work? Or will somebody come out of the blue and hit him and leave him for dead? I mean, but it really comes down to, I'd like Bernie to have some more integrity with his surrogates, or them to get on the same page or something. Because listen, if the shit is out there, it's out there, okay? Like, you don't need to denounce this. So, or you don't need to pull back on your top surrogate. If it's out there, it's out there. Do not run from it. They will chase you for the rest of your life. We need you to be a fighter, Bernie. We know you're a fighter, and we know you're playing in murky territory with the establishment. But after this Iowa debacle, after all of this, you have to realize that these people are not your friend, Bernie. And if not, then one day an arrow's going to hit out the sky and hit you right in the ankle and leave you for dead, and leave the working class for dead. Now, Bernie, I need you to act like you're the champion of the working class people and that you are here do or die for us. Now, I know the optics and the pandering of this unity, but I'm not voting for any of these other fuckers. Maybe Elizabeth Warren. Maybe Elizabeth Warren, if I get out of bed on fucking election day and I'm feeling fucking nice, I'll fucking get out. Like, as far as viable candidates go, like Tulsi Gabbard, Andrew Yang, I'd vote for them as well, but they're not viable. So maybe if I get out of the bed and I'm feeling nice, I would vote for Warren. I refuse to vote for any of the rest of these chumps that you're running against. So I need you to go out there, and I need you to not allow yourself to get pacified by the rules that they're levying on you, the rules that they are placing on you that are unfair. Now, I understand that and once again, guys, I say all this in criticism, but Bernie is rising the poll, Bernie is leading the polls, and it is his integrity that really is endearing to a lot of people. But it's like, you can be consistent on policy, and you can be consistent on not, like, attacking people, like, when it's not called for, but once in a while, you got to throw a punch. I mean, I know you're the counter puncher, but once in a while, you got to throw a punch. Mix your game up a little bit here. But, I mean, that's all I got for you today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this content. Tune in for more. Like, share, subscribe. This content's only going to get better, so stick around with me.